You're listening to But Wait, There's Lore, hosted by Pride.
I am a god!
Only on Nordrasil Radio at nordrasilradio.com. This podcast may contain harsh language. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome to But Wait, There's Lore Season 3 right here on Nordrasil Radio at nordrasilradio.com. I am Pride, and these people are my minions. Say hello, minions.
I'm not a minion.
Hey.
I'm not a minion. Shut up.
First of all, today on the show, what else is there to talk about other than the Mists of Pandaria leak that we got over the week? And so epic timing on our part to start the show this particular week and be able to talk about Mists of Pandaria while it's still, you know, a really hot topic.
Oh yeah,
so,
leak, air quotes.
You know.
I think you're a poet,
let's...
Pride, and you don't know it.
Why would I be a poet? I don't...
Pandara leak this week.
Who knew? Let's introduce the people, the guests on the panel today. We have the first guy. Whoever wants to be first, go ahead and take it.
Hello, I'm Dane. I'm Dane from Denmark. In the name.
Dane.
Yeah.
You're Dane.
Dane. Also a writer for Lore for Noobs on OMFG Cata. So everyone give him a round of applause.
Yeah.
Figurative round of applause.
Okay, just snap. Just snap.
just a snap to along the way.
We're just
All right, next on the list of introductees. Whoever wants to take it.
I'll
Yes,
take it. Okay,
I
I'll
was
take
first.
Ladies first.
I'm Luna.
Go.
Luna.
I guess that's all there is to say. But I'm Luna.
Simple but good.
She's Pinkie Pie, not Luna.
That again.
Yeah. Anyways, hello, I am Bespy. That's about it. Yeah, Bespy. Just like Best Buy. Has no cliche reference at all.
And last and positively least, we have the southern guy.
Hi, I'm Shang. I like My Little Pony.
That's all I've been hearing. The whole 30 minutes I've been in this call so far is stupid My Little Pony 4chan references.
You're just so jelly. You're just so jelly.
I'm so jelly. It's ridiculous how jelly I am. All right, so here talking with us about the lore behind the Pandaren, specifically, you know, in reference to this leak, Mists of Pandaria, we're gonna have Shang and Luna, and then later on in some Q&A, we're gonna have the other two guys that are with us. We're going to have Bespy and Dane. So, with that said and the introductions out of the way, let's get right into it. So, initial impressions about this leak. Shang.
I like to say it's very exciting.
Yeah, it was very, very exciting for me. Like, you know, I always get really hyped up whenever there's a new expansion. With the addition of Pandaren, I've just always wanted to see Pandaren ever since Warcraft 3 again.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have wanted to see the Pandaren be reintroduced into the series, especially with how awesome Chin Stormstout was in Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
I think they've had some issues in the past on whether they really wanted to bring them in or not, but I think that it's just there's been such a call from the fans that they couldn't ignore it anymore. So I guess what better way to bring them in than to name an expansion after them, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think one of the funny things is that the origins of the Pandaren was actually an April Fool's joke from the Blizzard crew.
Yes, Blizzard crew.
But they got such a high velocity of fans of that concept that they decided to add it into the RPG and then decided to add the lore into World of Warcraft.
And it was fun because like you go into all these. Like, there was this one Easter egg in this little spa resort area, and you go in there, you see a Pandaren picture flash if you go in the water. It was really fun, and then finally when he got into the Frozen Throne, Chen was just a badass.
That he was. Very much so. Love Chen Stormstout, one of my favorite characters that was introduced in Warcraft 3. Now, obviously, this brings up many questions in terms of how these guys are going to be introduced into this, or reintroduced back into the story. Of course, they've been kind of out on their own in their own little mist-filled island, staying away from everything that's been going on between the Horde and the Alliance, specifically in recent years. I mean, this goes back 10,000 years ago, before the time of the Sundering, when they took a step back and they left. I mean, they've been gone for 10,000 years. So what do you guys think? Is it going to be troublesome for us heavy lore fans to take some of the inevitable retcons that are going to have to be put in place to bring these guys in?
Well, a lot of retcons have been put into place already. I mean, Warcraft 1 and 2 are full of them, but you know, it pains me a little bit. But you know, I think it's going to be worth it just because I want to play as a Panda Man. Just because I want to.
You want to play. You want to bring the pandemonium, right?
I want to bring the pandemonium.
Nice. And Luna, your thoughts?
Well, you know, they're all, you know, for the past couple years, there have been so many retcons. What's another 2 or 3, really? It may upset a lot of people that the story is going to change from its main direction, but if you're going to add in a race that everyone was looking forward to, I believe there should be some exceptions to how many lines that they can change.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a difference between retconning and completely rewriting all of lore. Like, you can erase a little detail or two, but big things are just, yeah.
According to the RPG, I know that most of that doesn't correlate to the actual game itself, but what I've researched about the Pandaren is that they actually have a base somewhere in the Stone Talon Mountains. Nobody knows where it is. But we know that what I can theorize about it is that they are going to, probably the Night Elves are probably going to find this base somewhere, if that's how they're going to introduce the Pandaren into Azeroth.
Yeah, just stumble across it, hiking.
And this brings up something interesting, because if they left and found this their island that they've been on before the Sundering, of course, before the Sundering, Azeroth was one giant continent. Now, we do know that there were islands kind of scattered around that continent, and they could have found one of those. But when you think about it, if they found an island before the Sundering, before Azeroth was split into the 3 bigger continents, then that would suggest that that island is either on the far side of Azeroth, on the eastern side of Azeroth, or on the western side of Kalimdor. However, it has been suggested, and heavily suggested, that it's going to be more of a South Seas kind of expansion, which means that all those islands in the South Seas are going to be brought into play. However, if this was before the Sundering, then their island wouldn't be in the South Seas.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah, it brings into question. Yeah, it brings into question how they're going to. Are they going to Dalaran that island from west of Kalimdor over to the South Seas now? I mean, we know the process can be done, so perhaps they're going to go with something along those lines. It's frustrating to think about the changes that
using magic.
Yeah, it's frustrating to think about the changes that they're going to have to make to some of the, for me personally, to some of the back lore. I don't like when they change the lore. It gets very confusing. I'm already confused enough. I don't even remember which Sargeras story is the right story at this point.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that I think about the location of the island is that, according to the lore of the Pandaren, the island is somewhere that we as Azerothians have not discovered yet. but it can't be. So it can't really be in the center south of the Maelstrom, because according to the paths of the Zeppelins, we would have discovered it by now.
And ships,
And the ships and all that stuff. So the only logical place to put it would be put it on the other side of the globe.
Well, at the same time, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Oh, go ahead and finish. I'm sorry.
I was going to say between eastern kingdoms and the western side of Kalimdor.
Yeah. Oh, and this is, if you take a look at all the boats, if I remember correctly, or when you get on a Zeppelin or a boat, it doesn't have like an X for the starting spot, and then they have the little dashes that flow around until you get to your destination. Yep. Have you noticed they don't ever cross the eastern side of Azeroth or the western side of Kalimdor?
Which, according to the older globes, it would have been closer to go that way.
Exactly. So what if? The only thing I can really think of is maybe we've never gone that way for one reason or another because we don't know or something along those lines. But it seems like every time you take a boat or a Zeppelin and you have to cross the sea, it always goes around the Maelstrom. Or if you're starting on the opposite side, it never goes across. It always goes up and over.
Well, I find that silly. Like, oh, hey, let's go right around that gigantic hurricane sort of thing. Yeah, that's safe.
Well, it would actually be like a logical real-life reason for that. If they followed the real-life weather patterns, then the jet streams that flow across Azeroth would follow that path around the Maelstrom, because the Maelstrom would be creating this vortex-style pattern of wind. So if they follow this path, then it would be logical to have those following that path.
But it wouldn't affect the other sides of those landmasses all that much.
Well,
it wouldn't affect eastern.
You would follow, when you're going from when you're going from Undercity on the Zeppelin to Orgrimmar, you're following the northern path. But when you take it back, you're following a southern path down the southern side of the Maelstrom. So you're following that vortex.
Yes, but that particular, I guess we can call it the jet streams, the weather system there wouldn't affect the other sides of the continents.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that, for the goblins who would be more attuned to this kind of thing, their city was right next to it, so they're highly affected. They were highly affected, so knowing their technology, they knew, the fastest way to get from continent to continent is to follow these jet streams, because when you have a tailwind, you're going faster.
That's true, but when you take a look at the Night Elves, they're way up top. They're on the opposite side of Kalimdor, the western side of Kalimdor, at the top. So it would actually be better for them to take a southwest course to reach the eastern kingdoms.
Yeah.
Even with the powerful jet streams that the Maelstrom creates, if you want to go with the real life scenario of that and bring that into the lores, maybe that the backwinds of the Maelstrom pushes the ship sails faster. That's fine. You can say that. But it's still not only that, but it would also be safer, you would think, to bypass the Maelstrom instead of get into the Maelstrom.
Well, a theory that I have is that with the two different continents having been one at some point, the other side is relatively unexplored. They don't know if there's going to be danger back there. They don't know that, almost like they say, the world is flat. It's not a globe. So anyone would think that the only way to get to the other continents is through that center space.
Well, there are definite proof. There's definite proof that Azeroth is round and that the mortals are aware of it with the Highborn. I forget the word. All right,
but when you have races like goblins and gnomes who want to know everything, you would think someone from one of those two races would go out and explore. Or the dwarves, even. The dwarves, the Explorers the Explorers League of the Dwarves. You'd think someone would take a boat out there at some point and find out what's out there.
Unless it's like the Bermuda Triangle, where they just take a boat out there and it just poof disappears.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was thinking,
into, say, maybe Pandaren country.
Well, yeah, that's one. That could be one thing. Maybe there have been, but they haven't been heard of because when they went back there, maybe Pandaria is one huge giant landmass that we don't know about.
And when you just sail in there, you get amnesia.
Yeah, maybe it's not one of these tiny islands that we think it is, and maybe it's so beautiful and peaceful there that whoever travels there, they come in, the Pandaren take them in, and boom, there we go. Back. Yeah, you don't want to go back because it's so peaceful or what have you.
Cherry blossoms everywhere, free ale, good stuff.
But before on this, we're gonna take this break coming up here in just a couple of minutes. So I don't want to get into the backstory of the Pandaren quite yet. I want to save that for then. So I just kind of want to keep on with our discussion about the patch information, I guess, or the information that we have and speculating on that. So, what do you think would cause the Pandaren to show themselves after all this time?
Hmm.
Yeah, that was my answer. That was my answer too.
Well,
I don't know.
But let me think here. I'm going to let her. Ladies first.
Yeah, give us your best theory.
So I don't sound like an idiot.
Okay, well, from what I've read, the Pandaren really highly prize peace. And that's one of the reasons why they left, is after the Sundering and the Night Elves
they left before...
I know I'm kind of delving into the Pandaren background, but...
Well, I know, but they left before the Sundering.
Yeah.
Well, they left because the Night Elves were becoming too obsessed with the power.
Yes.
Of magic.
So they left so they could find peace. They created their own empire. I mean, it could be something as simple as with Deathwing emerging.
Deathwing emerging kind of rips open all of Azeroth. I don't know if Pandaria would be an exception from it. Maybe they need help and they're in the aftermath of it still.
That could be that. It could be, they need help for some outside reason. It could be that, they finally come to terms with the balance of peace and violence. So they're re-emerging.
Which kind of makes sense, being they have very similar purpose and, in society and in religion to the Earth Mother and the Tauren, and they're very balance-oriented themselves. Yeah.
So, they could even be kind of the mixed way between Tauren and the Night Elves, where they have, the Tauren kind of more worship the sun right now more than the moon, and then the Night Elves worship the moon. Well, there could be a mix of them, and they got a message from the gods that they're needed.
Or, they just worship Twilight and they're all vampires. There's that too. But the idea, I think, is that Pandaria, it might be in distress. It might actually need help. There could be some sort of dire emergency in there. I mean, things happen all the time in politics and everything. And really, I see the Pandaren as very privatized people, but if Chen somehow convinced them with his stories that maybe the Horde or the Alliance were, they had a good side, good people in them, like really decent people, maybe they could loosen up. Maybe they were thinking, maybe they're not all like the Night Elves anymore. Yeah, I mean, if you consider it, the Pandaren haven't even really interacted with many humans besides Chen. I mean, the last things they've met are most likely trolls, Night Elves, and Tauren. That's it.
Yeah, they were very close with the Tauren and the Night Elves, but one would think that if something were to happen on Pandaria that would make them believe they needed some kind of outside help, Chen would definitely, I think, become an ambassador for at least the Horde, if not possibly the Night Elves as well. Although I find it hard to believe, because even when he was in Warcraft 3, he didn't communicate with anyone from the Alliance very often, if at all. Most of his time was spent with orcs and Tauren and trolls.
On that note, it is possible that, it is said that the Pandaren do share some similarities and kinship with the Wild Hammer Dwarves, and
yes, that too.
Well, and you can also see the effects of what we know of the Pandaren society on the Night Elven Society. I mean, even from the word Shandow.
Yes, that's true.
It's where I got my name, Tooltip. But yeah, I'm pro now. But I see the Pandaren as, you know, large figures in archaic times, and then they just disappeared, and throughout the ages they just became forgotten, and they liked it that way. They really did. They didn't like the publicity. Who knows? You know?
Our producer, our great producer Blondie is yelling at me because we're going over time, so we need to take ourselves a nice quick commercial music break. So take us out, Blondie.
This podcast is brought to you courtesy of Skype.
Pride heralds the end of your world.
Alright, and welcome back to Boether's Lore right here on Nordrasil Radio at nordrasilradio.com. If you have any lore questions or anything that you would like for us to answer towards the end of the show, please feel free to email lore@omfg.fm. We'll be sure to get to those at the end of the show. But in the meantime, we are still talking Pandaren. We're still talking Mists of Pandaria, the latest quote-unquote leak from Blizzard Entertainment, the next World of Warcraft expansion. So, let's get into the lore. Let's get into the backstory, shall we? Let's, who wants to take this? Who wants to give us kind of the brief summarization of Pandaren lore, considering there's really not a whole lot of it out there? Perhaps someone with a more feminine touch.
You know.
Oh,
so
thank
Shane,
you.
if you would take that.
Well, right, thanks for asking. All right, well, the Pandaren, essentially, they were around way back when in the Tarn and the Night Elves, before the Sundering ever occurred, and around the same time that, yeah, they were big buddies. They were in cohorts with the Tarn, and they were all right friends with Night Elves, you know. And then when the Night Elves became very power addicted, Pandaren are just like, this is not fun at all. I want to leave. So basically, they just packed up and left to their own little place, which could be, you know, it's Pandaria, and they have a mist around it. And ever since the Sundering, it's an island. And
Or it has been believed to be an island.
it's believed to be an island. It could, you know, for some reason, Blizzard's just gonna like, it's gonna be like, Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor are accidentally connected by this gigantic continent that nobody traverses through. Still.
Or has ever heard of, ever.
Or has ever heard of, ever. Yes. Or it's like the Borean Strait, so it's just like this little strip of land, but still, it's, and the most recent Pandaren lore, I think, has come from Chen Stormstout, really. Mm-hmm. And that was in his appearance in Warcraft 3 and his go-arounds with some Horde races, and he never really, I mean, if you note, he never really, I guess the Pandaren still have this thing against the Night Elves, and they never really talk to the Alliance all that much. And, yeah. That's my feminine touch on things. Is Chen Stormstout, and then after that, after Warcraft 3, I think he just disappeared. They make a reference to him in a Baron's quest, I do believe, in Ratchet, but besides that,
I mean, it's a fairly large quest line. I mean, the Pandaren are mentioned in World of Warcraft. They're mentioned on several occasions. But yeah, they kind of had this. They were around back in the day, right just before the Sundering, and then they disappeared off the face of Azeroth, according to the other mortal races around. And then suddenly Warcraft 3 comes around. Boom! Here comes a Pandaren out of nowhere. Kind of hangs out, chills around for a little bit, and then he's gone again. And that's all we've got. I mean, that's all we really have to go to base our lore on. But there are some other things that you can take into consideration. For example, Luna, would you like to kind of give some insight into their faith, kind of their culture?
Well, what I've seen is that the Pandarens are actually a lot closer to the Night Elves than they were to the Tauren. They traded a lot of skills and weapons. They had very similar in the religious aspect, where they, my theory that we haven't really seen a lot of the exact theories on what they worshipped, but with their ties to the Tauren and to the Night Elves, we can assume that they either worshipped both the sun and the moon, respectively, or kind of a mix of the two.
Yeah, well, it seems like... Go ahead.
I was thinking Elune in Tauren mythology it's speculated to be the Earth Mother's eye. Maybe the Pandaren are just centered around worshipping the entirety of the Earth Mother and, night and day and nature and balance in its entirety.
Well, and that can explain their very adamant search for peace. Very adamant search for balance in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all about peace, and that kind of goes back into their culture. I mean, they're all about relaxation, they're all about peace and things like that. I mean, these guys are master brewers. They love the beer, and they drink it constantly.
And they're also master weaponsmiths.
Yes, that as well, which is ironic when you think about it.
We love peace, but
we love peace, but here is an epic killing machine.
Have it. It comes with a CD player.
Yeah, they're very martial artists. Like they study martial arts. And kind of like monks. I would say they have kind of a very monkish culture. But these happen to be drunk monks. So,
well, there are monks that in reality.
Okay, but all of them are drunk. It's not like drunken master thing. It's just they're just all drunk.
It's just all drunk at the time.
They're like combination of dwarves and night elves and Tauren.
All three of them. All.
Yeah.
Plus
But what we see of the Night Elf, Tauren, and Dwarf societies now, seeing all these similarities between what we know of the Pandaren and what we know of these other races is that they're very heavily influenced by the Pandaren.
Yes. That they are. So, I mean, and at the time you have to go back and realize that at one point in time, the Pandaren was an empire. I mean, it was huge and vast. This is, once again, going back to before the Sundering, the Pandaren were very much there. I mean, they were very active in Kalimdor. What is now Kalimdor. Yeah, I mean, it was huge.
And, well, another thing about that is, if their society was so huge, if all of their towns and all of their beautiful architecture is so largely majestic and renowned, then why, maybe now what we see of a lot of the ruins weren't in fact Night Elf ruins, they're Pandaren ruins that the Night Elves are claiming under their society because, none of the other younger races have ever heard of or seen the Pandarens.
Well,
but you would think that the dwarves and the Tauren would have something to say about it. My thought on this is that it's going to be retcon. That's another one of those things because there's no proof that the Pandaren were ever there, unless.
Which is why I'm saying, if with these younger races, if the Night Elves and even possibly the dwarves are claiming these ruins as their own, that would keep the Pandaren from ever being claimed into existence.
Well, it's building on that. It's the entire idea. I think Night Elves have definitely lied about a couple of things that are that they have different stories against what Blizzard says is true. I mean, they say that the first Night Elf the first Druid was a Night Elf. The Tauren think they've been doing it forever and ever and ever. And, very dependent. I think the Night Elves just want to seem like
it wouldn't necessarily be Night Elves lying about that. It's Cenarius told them that.
Cenarius, definitely. And, you know, it's the Night Elves and Cenarius and the people that have really lived long enough, and they can just basically say whatever they want. They're the only really immortal race on Azeroth that has no knowledge of Azerothian history. While the dwarves don't necessarily remember their time as Earthen, and Tauren their ancestral stories are known as myth.
Well, another thing, you know, I don't want to bring this off topic a little bit, but I think this is worth mentioning. In the new quest chain where you have to go and collect the Moonwell samples around Teldrassil, you meet a spirit of the Night Elves. This spirit is either, if he's telling the truth, then things are definitely not what they seem, because they claim that Fandral Staghelm, who we know to be someone who is not of a good influence, so to say, he claims him to be something a lot greater than what we have now made him out to be. And that, in fact, Malfurion is the one who's in the wrong.
Ooh. Well, that'd be interesting.
Yes.
Because if you watch, I mean, we've never really seen the Shade before, and he doesn't really resemble anyone specific. But the story that he tells isn't one of Malfurion coming to reclaim Teldrassil for the good. He claims that Fandral was fixing everything, and now Malfurion had to come in and upset all of Fandral's work.
But, you know, it just kind of be a bitch to find out all of World of Warcraft playing as a Night Elf. You've been on the wrong side.
Well, what I was getting at is, you know, the concept of the Night Elves lying about a lot of stuff.
They are...
Is something like this, you know, spirits, I don't think, are known to lie. So if what the spirit is saying is true, then there's a lot of the Night Elves that we really don't know.
A lot.
Well, I think that's kind of known anyway, that the Night Elves have been very reclusive. You know, they weren't around. I mean, up until Warcraft 3, they were kind of rediscovered in that time as well. I mean, they lived very reclusive. They lived very shut away from everyone else.
Well,
like
the thing
Pandaren.
is with this quest chain, because it's in the starting chain for new Night Elves, it's not just lying to the players or to the rest of Azeroth. It's lying to its own people.
That's true. That's true. I guess that's something that we'll have to wait and kind of find out what they do with that. I mean, that's very interesting information, but I think that's just something that we can't know right now.
It's Warcraft.
So, and back to the topic of Pandaria.
Back to the topic. In general, they're just as reclusive as the Night Elves were before they lost their immortality, and they said, "Yeah, we need help." That'd be funny to learn, to know that the Pandaren are immortal. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? We'd have no evidence to prove otherwise.
I disagree. I do not believe that the Pandaren would be immortal.
Oh yeah, who really wants a race of giant drunk immortal teddy bears?
Pandas. The Chinese.
Teddy bears.
The Chinese, I think, would love to have their pandas be immortal.
They would love that.
Well, one of the things that
I'm pretty sure they have scientists working on that.
Well, one of the things I heard, and I cannot confirm this because it's been a very long time since I heard this, is that a while ago, Blizzard was actually considering bringing the Pandaren in earlier. But due to the fact that, you know, pandas are an endangered species, and you'd be in some quests, more than likely you're going to be killing them off. They didn't, you know, as an endangered species, they didn't want, you know, people going around saying, okay, well, I can kill a panda in this video game. Let's do it in real life.
That is not true. That is
like
a false.
I said, it was
that is
something
a
that I
false
heard
rumor.
a long time ago.
And the proof that is a false rumor is that you can buy Kung Fu Panda in China.
And Kung Fu Panda, he gets his ass just whipped across just a town.
I know, but he's never. He may have his ass kicked, but as a hero, he overcomes all these things and becomes prominent in the end.
And at the same time, I don't even remember in Kung Fu Panda he ever like visibly getting massive gory wounds that he would have sustained from all of those beatings, from all of his tub of lard.
And another thing about this rumor that I heard was that this rumor actually came to, when I heard it, it was back at the end of Vanilla when Burning Crusade was about to be launched.
Well, the biggest thing, and I think the only actual truth behind any of this rumor is another part of the rumor is that it had, because it was Panda, which the Chinese love and respect and all that stuff, but it was actually wearing Japanese armor. And if you know anything about the history between China and Japan, you know that China wants absolutely nothing to do with anything that is Japanese.
They hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually, I think, would have pissed them off a hell of a lot more over anything dealing with pandas getting hurt in any sense. I think that it's the fact that it was a panda.
That definitely makes sense.
With Japanese influence behind it.
And I believe Blizzard still pictures them to have semi-Japanese influence behind them, and they're always pictured with cherry blossoms and Japanese-esque outfits, to what I've seen.
Well, that's something we'll have to find out whenever, at BlizzCon 2009. Now, I mean, we're all going to look like fools here if this is some ploy by Blizzard, but at the same time, it's fun to talk about, so.
I'm going to laugh if Blizzard just like,
BlizzCon 2011. I was at BlizzCon 2009, I apologize. BlizzCon 2011. Anyways.
BlizzPunk 2011. That's what he's going to do.
Well, I mean, they did try and troll us at BlizzCon 2010 with their fake announcements at the end. I didn't appreciate that very much.
Ashton Kutcher's just going to come out and be like, ha ha.
But anyways,
I'm going through the Google pictures, and I typed in Pandaren, and from all of the, not just fan art, but a lot of the images from, like, even screenshots of the pet, they are in fact wearing, the only thing Japanese really is the hat. Everything else is a Chinese influence.
Yes, they did change that with the non-combat pet. They did put more of a Chinese influence on him over the Japanese samurai armor style that the original Pandaren kind of came out with. But one thing I think we can kind of getting back into the lore of it and stuff like that, I think we can definitely see if this is a playable race. And I do not believe that they're going to be a playable race. I really don't. All right, number one, I don't think it's going to be a playable race. Number two, everyone seems to think they're going to be an alliance race. That's even more far-fetched to me, that they would be an alliance race. Because
the Pandaren are very, very, very neutral.
Yes, not only that, but recently, if something happens, Chen is going to be the one that brings them back to Azeroth. That I'm almost positive would be the case. He would play a major, major role and be very influential over the Pandaren people. And because of his time and experiences on Azeroth, those influences, he would influence them to join the Horde, not the Alliance. The only thing that I can possibly think of that would cause them to join the Alliance over the Horde would be Garrosh Hellscream.
That definitely is Garrosh, but at the same time, Varian. So
I think Varian would welcome them, actually.
Yes, but they're both very headstrong, violent leaders. Varian was always the one denying peace with Thrall. If it was Thrall in charge, then the Pandaren would have no doubt to join. But Garrosh is as hard-headed as Varian. And it's
I think
almost...
if anyone is going to be the person, if any person is going to be the one to convince the Pandaren to join the alliance, would be actually Jaina. Because she is always trying to see if she can make peace between Thrall and, in the past.
From a political standpoint, it would actually be beneficial for the alliance to pull in the Pandaren, because that would gain them access to the Tauren.
Indeed.
A more open access to the Tauren, not just it would put the Tauren in a really tough spot, because not only would Bane, who was saved by he was saved by Rexar, but that's beside the point. Bane and Cairn had a relationship with Shin Stormstout. And so I think that because of that, Bane specifically would be put in kind of an odd, awkward situation politically, because the Night Elves and the Tauren have never really been at war with each other. They've done a pretty good job of coexisting, more or less.
On the Cenarian Circle and everything.
Yeah, I mean, more or less, the Tauren and the Night Elves have been able to put up with each other's since forever. I mean, they worked together during the War of the Ancients and all that good stuff. So already you've got the Tauren not wanting to really deal with not wanting to fight with the Night Elves, and the Night Elves aren't really wanting to fight with the Tauren. On top of that, now you add the Pandaren into the mix. Now the Tauren have two somewhat allies, you could call them allies, in the past, now on the alliance, and that puts the Tauren at a very tough political spot, especially with Garrosh still in charge. Garrosh could, have the Tauren go up the coast and tell them to fight the Night Elves. And I think that if that were to happen, we would get some very good political lore out of that scenario.
And the thing is,
another thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's all right. But I was just spouting something. If it was involved with Garrosh, I don't really think the Tauren have any really reason to be with the Horde still. And if that case, their alliance is mainly with Thrall and the orcs, the Thrall orcs, and not necessarily Garrosh, who is absolutely everything Thrall stood against. And, he's reflecting the younger orcs instead of the older, more experienced ones, and that's just not really what's savvy with the Tauren. And with the recent death of their leader, it's right after a duel with Garrosh, ironically. It would be very drastic. I mean, it would be very, very heart-wrenching for them to see that their two age-old allies are back on the alliance, and that they really are just missing out on the party on the Horde, being bossed around by some brown-skinned orc.
Well, no, on top of that, go ahead.
Have you guys read the new short story?
No.
On Dane or Bane, with the involving the what's that mob called? The Thorn Valley, the pig.
Quillboar.
Quillboar. Have you guys read that short story?
No, we have not. Does it pertain to anything dealing with the Tauren's thoughts on Garrosh?
Yes, very much. Actually.
What does it say? Well, give us kind of the wrap up, because we gotta take a commercial break here in the next couple of minutes. But and there's a couple points I want to get across. But just give us a kind of the summary of how do the Tauren, or specifically Bane, how do they feel about Garrosh right now?
Well, according to the story, the whole story is Bane's overcoming Garrosh's impulsiveness against anything that is threatening the new Horde. In the beginning, it's right after the Cataclysm, and the Durotar's water supply has been corrupted by the overflow of the river. So Mulgore, in that area of Horde controlled, Mulgore is the only thing that actually has fresh water. So Garrosh is demanding that fresh water that Mulgore has to be transferred to Durotar to feed the orcs.
So I'm thirsty.
Pretty much. So the orcs are thirsty, and Garrosh demands now.
No,
So-
I want my water.
Well, the expedition that has always been on Mulgore's water wells are corrupt. They're corrupting more of the water wells. So, and they don't understand, and then they make a journey to one of the water wells and find out that both Tauren and the excavators are all dead, and there's a certain taint about them that they can't explain. Well, it turns out that the Quillbore are becoming very extremely violent. So Garrosh, when he learns of this, says they will die. They will all die. And Bane, is very for peace. So he consults with the shaman and the druids. What should I do? So they are like, give us a day, we'll figure this out. In the meantime, try to be patient with Garrosh. So we learn that Bane has a lot of patience for what Garrosh's violence, but he doesn't necessarily approve of it.
All right. Well, we'll get into a little bit more on that when we get back from this commercial break. Take us out, Blondie.
This podcast is brought to you courtesy of Skype.
Badness has brought you here to me. I shall be your undoing.
And I believe we're back. I hope we're back. I don't know. We're having technical issues with Skype at the moment. So hopefully we're back. So welcome back to Wait, There Is Lore right here on Nordisto Radio at NordistoRadio.com. And we're getting right there, the second hour of the show. We're getting down to the wire. We're talking about Pandaren, specifically going on with the Mists of Pandaria, quote-unquote, leak that we got over the week. But if you have any questions about Pandaria, Pandaren lore, anything in regards to lore, whether it's Jaina Proudmoore, Sargeras, the Titans, Old Gods, whatever you feel like you want to know about, send us an email to lore@omfg.fm. That's LORE at omfg.fm. So get those emails in. And yes, thank you for that information.
We also take questions about barbecue Tauren.
No, we don't do that. That was all last season. No. So we are still talking about the Pandaren here on the show, and one of the things that we kind of got into a little bit was the Tauren's feeling, and it seems like it's off topic, but it isn't, because there's a transitional period going on here. This is a bridge from one topic to another topic, but it all revolves around the Pandaren. But we are talking about the way that the Tauren currently feel about Garrosh Hellscream and Horde leadership at the moment. So if Luna would go ahead and continue where she kind of left off, or kind of give us a summary of where we were, and carry on from then. Right. If you would, please.
So before we went on the break, I was talking about the new short story that Blizzard released on the World of Warcraft community website, involving Bane and the Quillbore and Garrosh's impulsiveness in getting rid of this sudden threat to his people by using some extreme violence. Now, what had happened was Garrosh sends in, while Bane and his Tauren Bane and his druids and his shaman are trying to come up with a peaceful way of solving this problem with the Quillbore becoming so violent, the Garrosh, catching wind of what's really going on, decides, I'm going to eradicate the Quillbore and fix the problem. So Garrosh takes some of his finest warriors into Quillbore territory in Mulgore, and they get slaughtered. the only survivor is Garrosh himself. The person that came to his rescue was Bane and his brand new Sunwalkers, or the Tauren Paladin. When they get Garrosh out, the the shaman and druids open up a brand new well right in front of the entrance to the Quilboar cave, where their original cave was, as you know, from before Cataclysm. And they I don't know if it kind of teaches Garrosh, there's a peaceful way of doing this, or if it just exhibits Bane's wavering patience with the way Garrosh runs his new horde and how demanding he is. But you can see that there is some political wavering between the Tauren versus the orcs.
Mm-hmm. I find it surprising that he's being as patient as he has been, considering what happened with Cairn and Garrosh. I mean, it wasn't totally Garrosh's fault, but he had every intention of killing Cairn.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't in the way that it happened. He didn't want it to happen in such a dishonorable fashion, but Garrosh went into that fight with the intention of killing Cairn. And that's what I think a lot of Horde players that are kind of defending Garrosh don't know about or don't think about. Is that, Garrosh isn't totally at fault for killing Cairn. However, if that wouldn't have happened and he had won, he had every intention of killing him. It was a fight it was an agreed upon fight to the death.
Well, and the way Garrosh runs his horde and the way the Tauren want him to run his horde are two completely opposite ends of the spectrum. So Garrosh's view on killing Cairn could possibly be, this is opposition, he needs to die.
Well, the orcs are just very, very, very headstrong. They're younger versions. Now, especially now that Garrosh is in charge, is that the older orcs are always going to be more wise and understanding, while the younger orcs are just as brash as the main man himself, or the current main man. And, Karn and Bane, they're both, the Taurens in general, they're both very, they're essentially the really good versions. They're what Thrall strives the orcs to be. They're peaceful, they're huntsmen, they're very religious and devout, yet at the same time they're not overly such. They're
very loyal.
Very loyal. And very nice people overall. They'd help you out. Orcs, Garrosh probably sees it as, he's trying to look better than me. He's opposite. He's trying to take away all my political standpoint. I'm gonna beat his ass for it.
But this all this, the Tauren's affinity for peace and, trying to find a very peaceful way to settle problems that have arisen in their, in their kingdom per se, is very ties into the Pandaren way of thinking. So we could possibly see a shift of loyalties regarding the Tauren between the orcs to the Pandarens.
Well, and that's kind of where this all kind of comes back to, is the political situation that the Pandaren are going to cause within the Horde, when and if they show up, and depending on which side they decide, they do inevitably join if they become a playable race, which I still don't believe they will, because there's no equivalent. Even if you put the Pandaren on the Alliance, there's no real equivalent for the Horde. If you put them on the Horde, there's no real equivalent for the Alliance.
I still think that the Pandaren won't be a race necessarily, but Pandaria will be unlocked, and they'll go. I think they're going by a pattern. BC had 2 new races. Wrath had a hero class. And then Kata had
we could
2 new
very
races.
well see the new. We could very well see the new expansion, instead of having the Pandaren be a playable race, just have them introduce even possibly the Brewmaster as a hero, a brand new hero class.
Brand new hero class, and then everybody can roll a Pandaren. And I don't know how that would work, but
the trees would be Storm, Earth, and Fire. I mean, based on the Warcraft 3, when Chen does kind of split up into the elements of himself, the Storm, Earth, and Fire elements of the Pandaren culture.
Well, see, and even regarding that, it shows that there's that's kind of the mirror image skill that the mages have, but it's also a very shamanistic ability.
Yeah, and that's one of the
elements.
That's one of the other things about this. If they were to become a playable race, I know for 100% fact that they would have both shamans and druidism. They would have to.
Well, druidism, do you think so?
Well, okay, druidism, I could see it taken out, but they're gonna put it in and make it work somehow, because that's Blizzard's thinking right now. They would give them both shamanism and druidism,
which would be odd. I mean, most societies in World of Warcraft are either divided into.
But it's going to be because they worship both what the Night Elves and the Tauren do.
And that does make
sense. If you look closely, the Tauren also have druids and they have shaman. The trolls have druids and they have shaman.
In recent times, given their druidism is based off of Loa, to my knowledge.
But it's still the same concept. You still have these two different elements going into the race.
And it doesn't matter. They can give Pandaren anything, and it won't make any less sense than them giving paladins to Tauren.
I mean,
which to me was the stupidest thing Blizzard ever did.
But lore-wise, it's applicable.
In the sense of Sunwalkers, maybe. Just maybe.
No, it's still stupid. I don't care. It's stupid.
It's stupid because I'm tired of seeing all the holy cow puns now on the subject of Pandaria. It's, I can see hero class of Brewmaster, maybe. But I don't see Pandaren as a playable race, because what would be the equal? I don't see Nerubians or Naga jumping to the occasion, and there's not much else you can do.
Right. Well, let's start wrapping this up, because I've got a little deal going on I need to get to. I mean, you guys will still be here doing the Q&A and all that stuff, so that'll be great. But I actually have to go do another obligation that I had for the day.
Cheater.
Yeah, I know. I get to leave the show whenever I feel like it, and I'm gonna do that.
Cheating on us.
Because I can. I'm doing it for the benefit of you guys, so keep that in mind.
All right.
I'm gonna go plug the show. But I definitely feel like there's some interesting questions, and there's some interesting things that Blizzard is gonna have to deal with to bring the Pandaren in, and I think that it's going to be this is a good time to get into the lore and get into the story, because I think that definitely either way it goes, if they do it the correct way, that it's going to raise some interesting questions politically within the Alliance and the Horde. I think that this is a great stepping stone into bringing the war back into Warcraft, which is something that they definitely have said they want to do. So I don't think that for any particular reason they shouldn't go ahead and get all this done and taken care of and do it the right way. So hopefully we will definitely have kind of a kickstart at the beginning of this expansion, and hopefully we will somehow, in some way, get some reason or explanation as to why the Pandaren are going to make a reemergence in the lore. A long-awaited and much-needed, in my opinion, reemergence into the lore. Any final comments from you, Shang?
Any final comments besides things involving ponies? Pandaren would be I see it as a lovely expansion, and I don't see Pandaren as a race, but I do see maybe Brewmaster, definitely. That's my bet, is that it's going to be a Brewmaster hero class, and that's what I'm going on.
Alright.
Mm-hmm.
And, I have to agree, I see them... I don't see them as a playable race. I see them as maybe teaching the the abilities of a brewmaster to others.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I see a large I predict a large involvement with the druids, the Caldera druids and the Tauren druids, and even, just the Circle of Cenarius.
Right on. All right, and just for the sake of argument, I'd like to invite the other two guys to go ahead and unmute themselves and kind of give us their final words on the discussion topic of the day, and then we'll take a quick commercial break, come back, and we'll do some Q&A. So if those guys would like to join in and just very quickly give us their thoughts. Emphasis on the very quickly.
Quickly.
Well, really quickly, I believe that it would be an interesting expansion, but as you stated, Pred, I'd really like to see how they're going to do this, because it's just very odd to bring them back after such a wide span of time that they've been gone.
Quickly.
Sure, we've seen a little bit of them, but we haven't truly seen their society as a whole. It could be very deformed from the society that we remember it as through the different lore. As going with the Brewmaster class, how it would tie in, I think that would be interesting, but I don't believe it would be very applicable.
Quickly!
Alright.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it won't be a playable race. I'm sorry to all those who are really sitting with their fingers crossed, but I don't think so.
Yeah!
Because it's really impossible, because as you guys said, there is no equivalent for the other faction. And even if it's just a hero class that is partly neutral, and that, like, the Pandaren people could split, as I heard you and Jesse talking about in that video, that Mr. Pandaria video, right? I just don't think they'll make like. I think there's like, it's hard to explain. I think that there will be like a quest zone, maybe like Pandaria will be a quest hub, but I don't think there will be a playable race or an add-on to the factions at all.
That was quick.
Right on. And I'm sure that there are going to be people out there that have an argument on in terms of, well, what about the Naga, or what about High Elves, or what have you? They're just, it's not a fit. It's not a good fit.
There's not. Like the Argent Crusade, for example. They could be like a new faction that both the Horde and Alliance help out in some way.
Right. All right. Well, let's take ourselves a quick commercial break. This will be your last chance for this particular show to get your questions in. So send us your questions to lore@omfg.fm, and we'll be sure to answer them as soon as we get back. Have a lovely day from me, as I may or may not make it back in time to answer some questions. I'll try my best, but no promises. But in the meantime, Blondie, take us out.
This podcast is brought to you courtesy of Skype.
By fire be purged!
Hello everyone, I'm Dane. I introduced myself earlier, and sadly, Pride is not with us right now. He had to do something, I don't remember what. So I will be trying to host the show from now on. We have...
Well, not now on for this episode.
Yeah, we have Shang, back from the discussion.
Oh, everybody knows my name now. Oh no,
that's
my privacy.
Shame. It's not
My
like
privacy is ruined.
It's not like there's 10 million out there who the same name as you. But
I know.
We have Shang and Besby with us today, and I'm Dane. We're going to be answering some questions that we got into the mail. So.
Alright, let's jump right into the first question. The first question we got is from Samuel Kolduck. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. He wrote about 4 different questions, so we're going to start with the first one he posted.
Yeah.
How big is
the Pandaren Island? Because even though the mist stops other races from finding it, air quotes, I don't know why they're there, I find it hard to believe that for all that time, something so big could be hidden so well.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. Blizzard has given you actually an actual zone in Cataclysm that has been hidden in Vanilla and Burning Crusade, and before that, Uldum.
Yeah, and as we were discussing earlier during the break, we were kind of brainstorming on what it could be, and as Nicholas was beginning to say, It could be some kind of ancient Titan technology that they put onto that certain landmass in order to cloak it. Maybe it's holding some very rich technology like Uldum was, and they didn't want the mortal races to find it, and the Pandarans just happened to stumble upon it. It could be something like that, or it could be something where...
gigantic bottle of brew.
Yes, a gigantic bottle of brew. It causes massive mist. And they get to drink every 5,000 years.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Totally. No, it doesn't at all. But with the cloaking, there's a possibility that the Titans place a cloaking device like they did in Uldum.
They could have like steam bath in the middle of the island that's like has an artifact at the bottom of it. It's like,
oh, it is Japan. Well, it is Japan, and I know if you check a lot
not Japan, China.
And yeah, but they have influence from all the Asian cultures, pretty much.
But it's more based around Chinese culture now, especially with the new companion pet we found. It was a little mix between Chinese and Japanese culture, but now it's heavily forming towards Chinese.
Yeah, that's right. But I bet that the Chinese like hot springs. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? You know.
But back to the question. Back to the question, guys. How big is the Pandarian Islands? I have no idea.
It could be anywhere from the size of, say,
Tiras
to a gigantic landmass the size of Azeroth before the Sundering.
I doubt it. Because Azeroth before the Sundering was originally called Kalimdor, and that is Northrend, Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor, and all the other islands combined.
Yeah. But, as he said, it's highly doubtable. Let's move on to the next question, which is, how do Pandaren naming conventions work? The only named Pandaren are the three brewmasters, Xiaoling, Sing, Hong Lu, and Zhang, and Chen's Stormsnout himself. Would it be as Chinese names work, or perhaps an entirely new system?
I think that Blizzard will take some, Chinese traditions into the naming, because they do that a lot with names. Like in Northrend with the Titans, the Rickle, they really much took the Norse mythology into the whole game. Like the Titan constructs like Thorim and Freya and Loken, they are all from the Norse gods. There is Thor, Frey, I don't know what you call them in English, I think that's
Loki.
And Loki, yeah. They are Norse gods. I'm a Scandinavian, so I know a little about that. So I think they will take some, like, the Chinese culture and general naming system in.
Perhaps just Asian culture in general, because it could be a wide variety of different names. So it could be anything from Chinese to Japanese. Just an over-expansive.
Yeah, I really hope that we get to see some new dragon models, because if we're going into an Asian-themed expansion or patch, I don't know, it might even be a patch. There's no really, we're not really certain if it really is an entire expansion, but if we're going to, into an Asian themed patch or expansion, we could possibly see some new dragon models.
Yeah, and that's something that I'd personally be looking forward to. Alright, the next question is it possible that they are related to Furbolgs of Kalimdor? I saw this picture by Metzen, and he links a picture, of course. And they seem to have similar features. Is it just me overthinking, or is it possible?
I don't know. Maybe it's possible.
Maybe.
Just to answer another question, I don't know who. I don't remember who posted it, but they were asking about night elves and trolls' common ancestry. There have been myths about, there has been myths or legends about night elves actually descending from trolls, which has pissed the night elves off, and trolls keep this myth up just to harass the night elves. It's not really certain, there's no real proof on this being, real. There are rumors.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of those rumors as well. Most of them deriving from how, the trolls have the elongated ears, much like the night elves, and how they have the tusk, which could perhaps be morphed into the night elven fangs.
Yes.
It could very well just be an evolutionary process, or the night elves could have been there all along.
It could, but as said, we're not certain. There's no reason.
Yeah.
So
It's all just speculation as of right now.
Yes, but it is possible, and thus it is also possible that Pandaren and Phobos are related in some distant ancestry, some way.
Alright, so on a completely off-topic question, we're going to Miroslav Mitrovic, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, and his question involves the old gods. He is asking where they came from. He was believing that Azeroth was a completely dead planet before the Titans came, and it was just destroyed, and he's wondering, did the old gods come from somewhere, sometime in the first place? To answer that first part of the question, Azeroth was alive. The old gods were already stationed there.
Yes, and there was elemental chaos
all over Azeroth, just the elements fighting one another, trying to
just sitting
prove
back
their
watching the
dominance.
popcorn.
Yeah, just watching their forces fight each other, just like, yep, I'm eating some popcorn over here. Yeah.
And and Yogg-Saron had like 1,000 bags of popcorn, because as you know, he has a lot of maps.
1,000 more.
He's very talkative and hungry, I bet.
For the latter part of that question, where he's asking why the Titans chose this place, chose Azeroth.
Because Azeroth is their playground. Azeroth is pretty much just it's a Titan experiment. All of Azeroth is a Titan experiment. The Titans are in the universe, in the cosmos, trying to create the perfect world. As you probably know, Azeroth isn't the perfect world, because we have the Twilight Cult, we have Deathwing, we have the old gods, we have destruction all over. Like,
technically, bad stuff we aren't perfect.
Azeroth,
human.
Yeah, Azeroth is not perfect in the sense that the Titans are envisioning it. That's why most believe that they've completely abandoned us and haven't helped us at all, and that we're essentially fending for ourselves against the tides of the Nether. Yeah,
and that's why what is called Algalon. If you remember Ulduar and the boss Algalon, he was pretty much sent there to destroy Azeroth, because it has become a corrupted planet. But the adventurers of Azeroth, the players, really fought him and made him think twice.
Yeah, and the next part of Miroslav's question is, what is the old god's connection to Sargeras? If they tainted him like Deathwing, aren't they the masters of the Burning Legion?
They just planted the seeds, you know?
Yeah, they made him go insane. They didn't...
No, essentially they didn't, because they didn't. They just... I think that Sargeras went mad and evil because he heard and fought and saw the old gods. He saw, how can there be this kind of evil in this world, blah, 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 oh god. And then he became doubtful and turned into the badass demon lord he is now.
But you have to remember that the old gods did have a card in that, in corrupting his mind slightly, because in that, wouldn't that make him more zealous? But instead it turned him into the demonic lord that we all know, that just wants to destroy the universe and all of the Titans' creations.
They might have a connection to him, but I don't really know if they are the sole reason for his corruption. I know that they actually tried during the War of the Ancients to bring him into Azeroth, because if Sargeras, like when the Highborn create the portal and allied themselves with the Burning Legion, the old gods were kind of helping in this way, like really trying to make the Highborn and the Burning Legion succeed to bring Sargeras into Azeroth, because a Titan of Sargeras' magnificence would shatter the bonds that held the old gods and free them. And 3 old gods against 1 Titan, even though Sargeras is pretty good odds for the old gods.
Yeah. The next question comes from this guy's email. I don't have his name. And he's wondering what happened to the Shadowtooth clan.
I'm wondering that too.
I honestly have no idea. They just kind of disappeared.
I really hope that we will see them again when it was announced that Hyjal would be part of the Cataclysm expansion, because they helped against the Burning Legion at the Hyjal Summit.
Mm-hmm. I really hope they do return because they were a very major player. Perhaps later on in a later patch they would come back to some extent, but as of right now they're just kind of gone, and we
but then
really don't.
Then again, Pandaren has been gone for a while as well, so and now they're probably back. Unless it's another freaking April Fool, which I really don't hope. Help you me.
April Fools, guys. We're just recycling the same April Fool's joke.
Hey, it's Blizzard, so why not?
Alright, so this next question comes from Alexander Emerson. It's not so much a question as a... well, it sort of is. It's asking our opinion. How would it be if Chen comes to visit Karen and Bane and tells him Garrosh killed Karen, followed by Shen... What do you believe Shen would do to Garrosh?
If he found out that he killed Karen?
Yeah, because, as you know, Shen was very attached to Karen.
Drink a couple of freaking brews and drunken Fox goddamn brown skin. God. I just imagine like Shen fighting like Jackie Chan in that movie where he's like all drunk and beats the shit out of guys.
Just like start shoving the brew down Garrosh's throat, laughing maniacally as he chokes on it.
Somehow I can just imagine Garrosh reaching up and ripping out Chen's like chest fur, and just like that, just like Chuck Norris. Just like
well, rip it. I think Chen will be very, very mad at Garrosh at least. And that's why that's another reason why. Even though they had ties to the Tauren, I don't think that the Pandaren would choose the Horde as their allegiance if they should choose either one, because, well, the Horde is led by Garrosh now. It's not at all peaceful. And the Pandaren do strive for peace.
So, the next question comes from Ramses Abrahamson. Once again, I cannot pronounce these names for the life of me.
Ramses or something. Just shush it and go on with the question.
Okay. He read
Rasmus. That's Rasmus, dude. That's Rasmus.
Okay, Rasmus. I'm terrible with names. Okay, so he read some lore on Jaina Proudmoore and found that she was a very important lore character, but he believes that she helped the Forsaken by stopping the attacks her father was going to
That's a little wrong. That's wrong, because Jaina helped the Orcs and Tauren against I don't remember her father, Admiral Proudmoore. I don't remember his first name.
Admiral something Proudmoore. It doesn't.
Yes, exactly. I don't remember his first name, but he didn't have anything to do with Forsaken. I'm quite sure that the Forsaken at that time wasn't part of the Horde at all. But I think he meant
also it was Dalen Proudmoore. It was Dalen Proudmoore. That's his first name.
That's right.
We don't. We care.
No,
we just don't care.
I have to.
But then again, we pretty much laid it down in stone that this was like a written question. I think he means the Horde, like the Orcs and the Tauren. But there's another part of the question that I think is quite interesting. She has not been present in the Cataclysm. That's not entirely true, because during the Shattering, the book that was just before the release of the Cataclysm, she plays a major role in both Anduin and Bane's stories from the book. Bane, as
don't ruin it. Some people might not have read it.
But then God.
Let's just say that she had a very important role in the Shattering, which ties deeply into, well, Cataclysm, if the name doesn't spark it for you.
Yes.
So, big thing, go pick up the book and read it, and you'll see that she has a really major part. Though she hasn't had a part in the game, she could maybe have a really big part in a later patch, or something of those means.
I mean, most likely they're just gonna throw Jaina in another patch and be like, "Hey, look, it's a woman. We're not like the stars. Go on,
it's a woman. Look,
it's the Messiah." And this is when, Pinkie Pie comes and says something clever.
Well, she helps Bane a lot in a very important way, and Anduin. Of course, but he's Alliance. He's the son of Aaron Green, so of course. and they both play a very important part in the Shattering. So shall we move on to the next question? Steve?
This would be just about the last question. What do you think of a Pandaren Brewmaster as a hero class?
Yes, because this a question that has been asked by a lot of people. So we're not going to bother announcing the name. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of people who asked about this. No, I don't think so. Sorry.
I don't know. Maybe, but if they were to make it a hero class, I wouldn't so much believe that it would be, oh, hey, the Pandaren split into, you can be Pandaren on the Horde or on the Alliance. That wouldn't make any sense. No. And even with learning how to be a brewmaster, it's plausible, but it wouldn't necessarily be a Pandaren brewmaster, because to be a Pandaren...
Well, there are people like Wu Ping who are obviously inspired by the Pandaren, and in that sense, and they might as well have been trained by the Pandaren. With the weapon master in Stormwind, he is very influenced in his character name and his weapon and his arms and how he dresses by the Pandaren, and even what he teaches.
It might.
Disagree.
Listen.
I disagree.
Oh, there's Pride. Oh God. Hey.
Oh, hey. Welcome back, Brad.
I don't know what you guys were talking about.
We were talking.
Oh, you just
talking
like I disagree whenever Shang's talking. Is he like my
we're talking about the Pandaren hero class. This several people actually asked what we thought about the Pandaren Brewmaster class.
I don't think so.
If it would be a hero.
I really think that if the Pandaren has any kind of influence like that, it would be a profession, maybe a secondary profession where they like alchemy, maybe just like with alcoholic drinks. I don't think they would be a hero class. I really don't think so, because that would require them to be a playable race.
I could see it becoming a profession, but other than that, I really don't see it occurring, because once again, to be a Pandaren Brewmaster, you kind of have to be Pandaren. So it doesn't work out that well.
But he actually Shen Stormsnout actually has an orcish apprentice in Rapture, who is an apprentice brewmaster. But then again, that's one and only one. That's
one out of whatever the population is of Azeroth. It's fluctuated because all the deaths and different wars.
Yeah.
And I believe that's just about all the questions, so...
Well, that seems to be about all the time we have for questions today, unfortunately. However, let's give ourselves a quick wrap-up of everything that was kind of discussed. If you would, please, let's go with Shang. Give us the wrap-up.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Very quickly, though. Very quickly.
Yeah, go.
Quickly.
I gotta put you on the spot. Train you right.
Train me right. Okay, Pride.
Just so you know, Shang, he has a whip.
Kinky. Anyway, so
no, it's not one of those kind of whips. I mean, this whip has like glass and shit at the end of it,
and snake heads.
Damn. I didn't know he had a Medusa edge whip. Anyway, overall, I really think that
Oh, come on.
Shut up.
We talked about Pandaria and the Mist of Pandaria.
Alright. Well, Mist of Pandaria, I really think if it's not just an April Fool's joke by Blizzard just to punk us again, the same time, the same thing, it's just a late April Fool's joke, and if that's not the case, then, maybe it's Blizzard... It's an attempt to bring back the mystery of WoW. In Cataclysm, I had content and there was new Azeroth, and it wasn't really fun to me because it didn't bring back the WoW that I once knew, and it was so great and overwhelming, and now it's just broken. Just Deathwing broke it. Yeah, Wrath,
what we were supposed to do, Shang, was just give a wrap of what we've been discussing today, so...
No. I know.
You're not hearing that.
Alright, fine. Wrap up of what we were discussing today. We discussed Pandaren, and we discussed Brewmasters, and we discussed the fact that possibly they could be a hero class, or they could possibly be more likely Horde than anything else in Alliance.
Yeah.
All right.
And we just answer a few random questions.
And then we answer some random questions that were submitted by the viewers.
Yes.
So if your question wasn't answered, don't worry, we'll get to it next week. And if you have any questions yourself, send us an email at lore@omfg.fm. I have been Pride right here on Nordrasil Radio at nordrasilradio.com. And my little minions here, they thank you for listening just as much as I do. And
minions, we're equals.
And we'll see you next week. Take us out, Blondie.